As Americans celebrated Veterans Day this week, I'd like to take some time to talk about some of the people who served over a century ago during World War I. Now, did you guys know that black men were only accepted to serve when War Department planners quickly realized that the standing army of 126,000 men would not be enough to ensure victory against Germany? True story. In 1917, while the war waged on, Congress passed the Selective Service Act requiring all male citizens between the ages of 21 and 31 to register for the draft. But white-run newspapers had been spreading lies of black soldiers assaulting white police since Reconstruction ended. So states across the South had prohibited black people from handling weapons, except, that is, when the country needed our help to win a war. Now, according to Army historian Jamie L. Bryan, African-American men who owned their own farms and had families were often drafted before single, childless white employees of large planters. Unfairly, the process of signing up shuffled black men right to the front lines. Although they were just 10% of the population at that time, black people made up 13% of wartime inductees. These men innocently thought that joining the Army would garner them respect from their white counterparts. And how'd that work out? Not so great, as you might imagine. Black draftees were routinely humiliated. They were greeted by white men who refused to extend them any humanity whatsoever. They remained rigidly segregated. Some were forced to sleep outside in tents instead of inside warm barracks. They rarely received proper attire and could go months fighting battles in muddy terrain without a change of clothes at all. Some were made to eat outside like animals, no matter the weather, rain or sleet. They were given inferior medical care, and they were largely relegated to labor duties and had to confront racism and slander from white soldiers and officers. Still, they served and helped America win the war. But after these veterans labored in the Army, weathered the abuse, and shed blood for democracy abroad, predictably, there was no democracy awaiting any of them at home. Upon their return, the men discovered that American white supremacy was harder to collapse than the German Army itself. Many black veterans were denied the benefits and disability pay they had been promised, and the mere sight of a black man having the audacity to wear his uniform in public could incite violence from white aggressors who never wanted black men to fight in the Army. As these black soldiers returned home, many were lynched. Many more survived brutal beatings and sadistic shootings, all for committing the crime of being black patriots in the white man's land. Today, some 43% of the 1.3 million men and women on active duty in the United States military are black, indigenous people of color. Black women, in fact, join the military at higher rates than men and all other racial ethnic groups. Senior decision makers, however, remain mostly white, and the offspring of those brave black men who fought in the country's First World War inherited battles of their own. As 1 in 5 defendants in the Capitol riot cases served in the military, today's enemies are once again domestic. And the fight for true democracy wages on. So to all the flag-waving patriots out there who celebrated Veterans Day this past Thursday, remember that not everyone's patriotism looks the same. Some of us carry the wounds of our ancestors onto the battlefields of today. And if our woke speak makes some of you uncomfortable, I can assure you it was not as uncomfortable as soldiers sleeping and eating in muddy camps, fighting for a country who was also fighting them. To those men and women, I say thank you for your service and sacrifice so that our battles are not as harsh as yours.